But if you have the chance to think really hard about what you want, you should take as much time as you need.
The thing I wished for destroyed my whole family. I can't remember what I thought was so important. What was worth protecting, you know?
Madoka Magica asks a simple question. What if you could have anything you wished for? It seems like an impossible stroke of good luck to finally be able to fix whatever's been holding you back or push yourself forward into the future through a wish. Only, no one said that the wish was free. No one said that you wouldn't have to give up everything else for it. Through their own human downfalls and the trickery of Kyubey, Madoka Magica tells the danger of wishes as they ruin the lives of those who made them. True to form, it's a very dark story that doesn't succumb to the desire for a happy ending, instead leaving us with the result of one final wish, how much it cost, how perfect it had to be, and how even that couldn't fix everything. I think it's a striking highlight of human mentality that given the opportunity to wish for anything, every character who has a choice with their wish sticks to a tangential method to gain happiness. Sayaka wishes for Kyosuke to regain his health, so they could be happy together. Kyoko wishes that people would listen to her father again, so their family could be happy again. Homura wishes to be able to meet Madoka again, so they could be in a happier time. They're all wishing around the conditions that are preventing their happiness, whether they actively think of this or not. It's a simple thought process everyone does. If this thing would happen or this one would change, then I would be happy. This is the wishful thinking that goes into their wishes, and it highlights one of the first dangers of them. Humans are limited creatures. Neither our being nor our mind has the capacity to truly know the entire situation around us, which encompasses not just ourselves, but many other lives that affect our own repeatedly, and even more that only bump into ours for a moment. We can never know exactly what outcome will arrive from an action, but we wish as if we do. We have to simplify to exist, but this makes wishes dangerous. It allows our wishful thinking to become purposeful ignorance. It lets us deflect and ignore the issues that we don't want to confront. Sayaka doesn't want to face the fact that Kyosuke doesn't love her, so she looks for an excuse in his injury. If he could recover from that, then surely he'd see her as someone to love. Mami doesn't ignore anything with her first wish, but rather with her second, that being Madoka and Sayaka to become magical girls as well, so she wouldn't be alone. Her second wish is for them to make wishes, and it's trying to push off the cost of her first wish, which is being alone as she is, and that's something we'll come back to shortly. And Homura can't face the fact that one day, no matter what, she'll have to say goodbye to Madoka, as everyone does. So she makes herself keep saying hello instead. She wishes to meet her again, and she does. It's hell, but it's also a situation where she'll always have Madoka. Their wishful thinking is an excuse to simplify and ignore their situations. This is something I and all of us are just as guilty of. I tell myself all the time that once my wish comes true, to be able to tell my own stories, I'll finally be happy. I know that's not the only issue and that it won't be that easy, but you can't say definitively that it won't happen that way. So I can ignore the issues that are making me unhappy and push forward as if a solution is waiting there for me. And this oversimplification is something to be stressed. In these complex situations, there are very few independent variables. Most things are dependent on or interact with others in a spiderweb of not just humans or society, but even the functions of the planet. Nothing is an island. However, their dreams act like things are. Sayaka never considers that once able to leave the hospital and seek other things again, Kyosuke would look for or be sought after for the love of another. Think of all the things he either couldn't or didn't want to do that are now an option. She may have opened the door for herself, but she also did for everything and anything else. Her wish was seeking happiness through the wish of another, and that can never be a guarantee. Homura tells a similar tale, but this time not of endless possibility, but instead limited ones. Her power was to lock herself in a box, one of time where she would relive her life with Madoka again and again. So is it any surprise that she can't change how things happen? That no one believes her story, that her friends will always brutally kill each other, and that Madoka will always die? She didn't wish for her to live, she wished to be with her again, and that's what happens. Because she locked herself into this slim range of possibilities where she could be with Madoka, she was unable to affect the wider world. But this is still the same thing as Sayaka faces. The world is too complex for the solutions they took. There's too much to change and not enough time. Because people are hard to change, and then people make situations, and then situations affect people, and so on. Homura could never accomplish all of this once she locked herself in a box. My example of this complexity in a wish? I've decided my method is to study others and learn, and I think it's working to some degree. But is that enough? I also have to sell that idea to someone who has the resources to get it made, then it has to be produced, so it needs actors and other writers and a crew to make it physically happen, and I can still have control over the situation, but never fully at that point. One person simply doesn't have that kind of power. And back to the anime, this is without even mentioning they didn't know all of their own situation to start. Kyubey lies and deceives at every chance, meaning what they wished for and what they got had changes they weren't even aware of. As Sayaka finds out, the consequences of her wish became the very reason she believed that she could never have Kyosuke. Then there's Kyoko's wish. What was complex on her end was the how. There's many ways your wish can be granted, but the method in which it is changes the outcome. As she says in her story, when her father learned why people were listening to him again, he went insane. He got what had been taken away from him, but in a way that made it worthless. Just because you got your wish doesn't mean it will actually be what you wanted. To again use myself as an example, if I was a successful creator but learned everyone was simply listening to my work because they were forced to, I'd be distraught as well. I'd give it all up right then because my wish wasn't what I wanted. If you change X, you can never know if Y and Z might change too, and you don't even know if X is the right thing to change in the first place. When we can never understand this kind of complexity, our wishes can simply become dangerous. We have to know that wishes are really just wishful thinking, even when they can come true like this.
Anyway, make sure you know what you want. A chance like this doesn't come around too often.
And then he called me, his own daughter, an evil witch who corrupted his flock.
If soul gems give birth to witches, then we have no choice but to die!
We see from the failures of the cast that wishes alone don't lead to success. That much is painfully clear. But to borrow something from an equally great anime, in order to obtain or create something, something of equal value must be lost or destroyed. Madoka Magica addresses this same idea with what it calls the karmic cycle. It's never fully defined, but Kyoko gives us a good idea of it here.
If you wish for something good to happen, a whole lot of bad stuff's gonna happen too. Good, bad, everything zeroes out.
To put this as simply as possible, and to tie it in with the concept I'm obsessed with, there's a cost to wishes. Mami is the simplest example of this, and the one who pays the cost with the most grace. Her wish was simply to keep living after an accident killed her family. But living doesn't guarantee her anything from that family she lost. She made the wish alone, and so she stays alone. The cost of her wish is loneliness. She's very open about this cost, saying things like this to Madoka.
When I'm scared or hurt, there's no one I can talk to. All I can do is cry on my own.
For a while, this is just how she lived. But in our earlier profile of Mami, we showed that this was the driving factor of her actions, most notably trying to pull Madoka and Sayaka into her world as well. And this is where a problem arises. Her second wish is to not be alone, which was the cost of her first wish. So in this horrific balance, when her second wish is granted, her first one is taken away. Kyoko's cost is just as ironic. In seeking happiness for her family, she wishes for her father's success once more. This success is the very thing that then destroys her family forever. And as if it wasn't enough, she also pays with her own kindness. She starts to believe no kind act could ever be worth it when it's something like this could happen from it, so she becomes selfish. She decided it was all for nothing because the cost of her wish was what she really wanted from it. So she cut loose from it, decided there was no worth to what she did, and moved on forever, changing for the worse. Sayaka and Homura form the opposite side of this tale. It's obvious what their costs are, Sayaka taking Kyosuke's pain, and Homura's mental destruction at the hands of time, so I won't belabor those points. What they accurately show, however, is that cost isn't passive. It isn't something that happens around us because of some cosmic law or that is a one-time deal. It's something we actively have to pay. And they show this so well by their determination. As Sayaka says,
My wish has been granted. There's no way I'll ever regret it.
from the get-go, she convinces herself that no matter the cost, her wish will be worth it. And this leads her to keep paying the cost, no matter how steep it becomes. Where Kyoko quit and saved herself, although being changed for the worse, Sayaka digs deep, trying desperately to make it all worthwhile, to reach some conclusion where she can look back and think it was all worth it. That hefty cost that she digs into is what takes her life, as she went so far she could never return. She chose the opposite path of Kyoko, but changes just as much for the worse. Homura is a similar situation in her determination, telling herself that she will save Madoka whatever happens. But hers relates back more to the complexity of these situations. Whatever cost she paid, there's no way it could cover the scope of her true wish in trying to save her friend. So she keeps paying and paying and paying for nothing more than a continuation of her wish. It never succeeds, but if she never stops trying, then it technically never fails either. To maintain anything left of herself, she only has one option: to keep paying forever. This is something I struggle with a lot. I think, at what point do I stop paying? When is this dream no longer worth it? I usually pay in time and exhaustion, and I really don't do much more than work, usually taking my whole weekday for that and usually going a little bit past anyway. Because I use all my time on work, I can push other necessities off to the weekend, and I'm left with hardly any time to go out and have fun. I'd manage, but I wonder, if I'm 30 and still just trying, have I wasted this chunk of my life? As my friends buy houses and get married, then I have no time to even think of those things. Wishes are dangerous because they can have such a high cost, and once you pay for something, you want to justify it, and you want it to be worth something. But we can't control fully if it is or is not. Every success is somewhere between luck and effort, but never fully on the side of effort. We can't just claim determination will get us there. This can leave us old and jaded, hateful and jealous at the limited amount of success to go around after we paid so much. And this is something else the anime explores expertly. Witches are the result of magical girls who fall to curses. Their soul gem becomes clouded, and if they don't purify it with grief seeds from a mature witch, then they'll become a witch themselves. To put it another way, when their wish fails, they become a witch. They become the source of evil in this world. Like someone who paid the cost but never got the reward, they drag others down into the depths. Witches in this world prey on others, usually forcing the deaths of innocent people for no reason. Because they failed, they want others to fail as well. It seems like such a far cry from the warriors of justice they once were, but this is the result of wishes, same as anything else. As we said, they're a method of deflection, putting off the things we don't want to face. But that doesn't stop those things from growing and festering as we look the other way. Sayaka spends her final days convincing herself increasingly that it's not her fault, that Kyosuke could love her, that the situation was just awful, everything but the fact that he didn't love her. And this truth becomes the entire basis for her witch. As with all the witches, a few core items or ideas define their aesthetic, which is everything we know about them from the outside. For Sayaka, it's music. But this was never her thing, it was Kyosuke's. That issue became such a big part of her, that failed wish, that it consumed her entire being. Her friends don't even recognize her in this form because these things aren't her, they're the issues that have made her into a beast. Everything she ignored but knew deep down came to define her, and that's what her witch represents. Her wish led to this kind of evil. The anime also makes it very clear that success is limited. Magical girls need witches to survive, but witches are failed magical girls. The only way they succeed is if others before them have failed. This is a fact of their world and ours as well. If everyone who attempted your wish before you was successful, how would you ever have it come true with a limited supply? If everyone who ever made a channel before me was still around and doing well, there'd be no space left for me to get an audience down to a simple lack of time and attention. It's a sad fact that for dreams, not everyone can be successful. And both in the real world and displayed in the anime, this isn't just those before you, but those around you as well. When Mami dies, Kyoko moves in and expresses upset that Sayaka is taking over her territory. And that's because there isn't enough grief seeds to go around for everybody. Mami had a territory and that allowed her to sustain herself. But if 10 others moved in, she would no longer be able to. Magical girls are a job like anything we could have. If you have 10 openings, you can't hire 100 people, so for those 10 to become successful, 90 others have to fail. Every minute spent watching one of my videos is time not spent watching someone else's. Everything is in limited supply, so not every wish can come true. You have to watch the people around you fail to get the thing you want.
Balance means good and bad have to zero themselves out, right? I can't take it anymore! After everything she's done, this is her reward?
And the anime drives this even further with Kyoko as she stresses the importance of witches over familiars. You can kill a witch before they kill anyone, but it won't give you a grief seed and your soul gem will still cloud from having been used. You physically couldn't sustain yourself acting fully in goodwill and trying to save everyone. And it's obvious that Kyoko is more successful than Sayaka because of this. Another sad fact that just trying to do your best and do that best by everyone else as well puts your wish at a disadvantage against others. If you share that job posting with everyone, you helped out, but now you lessened your odds to get it yourself. The best thing you can do is to hide it from everyone. But if we all do this, then the world just becomes a selfish cycle. And all of these sections form a cycle that feeds the others endlessly. Failed wishes like Kyoko's lead her to wanting others to fail as well, fed up with a world in which she couldn't succeed. This makes her conflict with Sayaka over the scarcity of success, and Sayaka's goodwill eventually leads to her failing herself and taking Kyoko down with her. Of course, this would have never happened if Mami hadn't had to pay such a heavy cost herself after so long of managing it well. But one slip-up and success was no longer hers. Maybe it would have been different if she could have worked with Homura, but her own desire to make her wish worthwhile led Homura down a solo path, boxed in by her desires which couldn't change the world around her. So she can't save Mami, and Mami dies not wanting to be saved by her. And so on. This cycle continues in a way which leads to everyone being destroyed. It's a fitting tale for the complexity they ignore, their situations and aspects of their wishes entangled to make a beast almost no wish could fix. They all fed off of each other until there was nothing left, just pain and loss and failed wishes that hid weakness despite their good intentions. But we said almost no wish could fix it. Madoka's wish, the most costly of them all, takes a stab at this problem. She fixes not just their problems, but all magical girls throughout all spaces and all times. And she gives up her own existence to do it. She erases herself to make this happen after unknowingly spending an eternity stuck in loops where she died and watched her friends die again and again and again. Something endlessly good happened, but how much had to go into it? Years of time loops, the mental anguish of watching all the evil around her unfold, the death of her friends, and the removal of herself from existence? This kind of wish is impossible, save this situation which was a stroke of luck from the most specific situation that should have never happened. That's the wish that succeeds. As we said with Serial Experiments Lane, this is the power of narrative I love. To take a situation we can relate to and push it to an extreme that stresses the point in a way we can never experience in real life. Here, that extreme shows us how much a good wish takes after laying out all of the dangers. And what I love most about this wish-based warning from Urobuchi's masterpiece is that, like many of his others, it doesn't have a perfect happy ending. Madoka's wish is fittingly costly, and even then, things really only end up just okay, and that's all. And I like that as an ending to this message. Wishes are a dangerous thing. They lead to everything that's bad in the world of Madoka Magica, from the personal tragedy of Sayaka, to the mental destruction of Homura at her own hands, to Mami's sudden cost for such a small wish, and Kyoko's lesson of caring once more, and everything in between. But when done right, it can lead to amazing things. Madoka paid a hefty cost, and everything had to go exactly right in a lot of ways she could never control. But her head was in the right place. She recognized everything that needed to go into a successful wish from all the failure before her, and she made it happen, knowing what it could do to her. She took the risk, and was okay that she might not know where it went, but she wanted it to work. It's supposed to look exceptionally hard because it is, and we need to be aware of all the dangers before we rush headfirst into dreams and wishes. We can't do anything we set our minds to, but we can sure as hell do a lot of things we set our minds to. And from there, our work is expanding those possibilities until we finally reach everything for everyone. It's a realistic message, and one that's been bouncing around in my head since I first saw this series so many years ago. I hope I've been able to collect some of those same thoughts you had as well, compiling them and presenting them here in a thought-provoking way. And I hope you move forward with this message not saddened, but looking at the future with clearer eyes, taking the risks you can and avoiding the ones you can't, knowing the cost and weighing it out with the benefits to make yourself the successful you that you want to see. As always, a huge thank you to our Patreons, which I hope some of you will consider becoming in the future, like the already amazing ones we have on screen right now. A couple other links in the pinned comment for both Twitter and the channel Discord. Another video on screen now, and as always, thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you again soon.